Look, I opened this jar of rotten baby food, and well, a butterfly came out.
Probably. I mean, I would say, yeah. I mean, punching down is the sign of, I think, in my
Welcome to the Comedians in Elevators podcast. I've got my guest, Doug Weissman. Doug, say hi, introduce yourself, and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, I'm Doug. I feel like I'm on a speed date, so I never really know how deep to dive or how fast to go, but I talk fast anyways. So I'm Doug. I am a novelist. I am a travel writer. I'm all things comedy, except in my writing, I'm incredibly depressing, and it makes me laugh because it makes everybody else sad. But I've published 9 novels, and I'm also a screenwriter, so I kind of just dabble in storytelling. Any kind of story you need or are interested in, that's where I try to go next.
Awesome, awesome. Well, I think we got something going on here. So, are you ready to get started?
Oh, let's jump in.
Listen, to my regular listeners, I know you don't like when at the beginning of these conversations I ask you to subscribe. None of us like it. I don't like saying it. I don't like it being in here. But it's frustrating. You know what else is frustrating? It's also frustrating when I look in the back end of the YouTube channel and I see that 56% of you that watch frequently haven't yet subscribed. And I know this because I see it in the comment section. You say things like, I didn't know I didn't subscribe. And that's actually what fuels the show. Basically, it's like you're making a donation to the show. So that's why I ask all the time, because it enables us to build and build and build. And we're going for the long term here. Hit the subscribe button and we'll continue to build this show for you. That's my promise. Thank you to all you guys that do subscribe. It means the world to me. All right. So the main point of the podcast is to compare and contrast the comic versus the comedian. So I define the comic as any person telling funny jokes versus the comedian who's a funny person telling any jokes. So, Doug, would you agree that you start as a comic and evolve into a comedian?
I might say that it's the reverse, for at least
Okay.
for me.
How
Yeah.
so?
Well, I feel like I'm a funny person that can tell a funny story, but I can't tell a joke.
Okay. All right. So yeah, well, I would go with not the part that you can't tell a funny joke, but the
Yeah.
story, right? That it's a narrative, and the comedian is more in the narrative driven perspective. Would you agree?
Oh yeah. No, I mean that's true. That's true. But goodness, I have like so many caveats just jump into my head, and then I start going down that deep dive, like Mitch Hedberg, one of my all-time favorites. But boy, no narrative. It's just one after one after one after one after one. But that's part of his
That
maybe narrative, his story.
or is that a comic? An example of a comic?
Yeah, I mean that's fair. This is where, man, I could talk myself into anything. This is why I'm terrible at multiple choice questions because I'll be like,
They're all
well,
right.
yeah, I can see why this could be correct in the right context, even though that's not really what the question is asking.
That's right. It's true, but not here. It's true somewhere else.
Yeah, right.
All right.
So,
Here.
yeah, so I would
Uh-huh.
agree with you that it's true here, but not somewhere else.
Oh, okay. All right, here's the actual first question. So, it's about the role of persona in comedy. So, how
Ooh.
much of the comedian's voice is a character versus their real self?
Man, I mean, I think that depends on the comic, but I would probably say maybe 80%, and then they just
Okay.
amp it up. I feel like it's like kayfabe. I was just talking about this with somebody. Kayfabe, if you're a wrestling fan, right, it's
Uh,
that it's the personas that wrestlers have of the villain versus the hero, and then they have to carry that persona outside of the ring. So you think they're a bad guy, and you think they hate each other. They're worst enemies inside the ring, therefore they're worst enemies in life. But really, they're like best friends hanging out, drinking beers backstage. And I
okay.
think that's the same thing, but within one person in a
Okay.
comedian, where like they're amping it up to 80 to make themselves their own worst enemy because their personality is just larger than life on stage, and then they have to dial it
Mhm.
back to who they really are off stage, off screen, whichever you want to call it, away from the mic.
So that's a great analogy. I think I'm going to try that the next time I go on stage doing stand up is somehow make my character a wrestler.
Ooh,
Somehow, in my own mind at least, that I'm going to put that wrestler energy into it.
yeah.
So I'm going to attempt that. Okay,
At least
so
for a Speedo.
oh, that would do it. That's one way to do it. I was going to start on the inside and
Oh,
evolve into the outside, but
okay.
that's
So
you could do
swallow a
outside.
Speedo then. Then you'll have it on the inside.
I could just wear it and no one will know, and at least that'll at least mentally I'll know. That's one way to
Yep.
do it anyway.
Getting into character, absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. Um, I'm thinking, is there the shoes? Nah, anyway. So, does authenticity matter or is illusion part of the magic?
Oh wow, that's a big deal. That's a good one. I mean, one, I think it depends on your audience, and I think it depends on your intention, right? So is authenticity in the message that you're trying to convey, or is it in your actual embodiment, right? So because some people, what it's I can't remember where I heard it, but somebody was like, oh, I think it was Aaron Sorkin once said, it's not truthful, but it's honest. So you're basically telling a lie to tell the truth. And so that's where I think even if you're not authentic yourself, you're getting at the authentic message, which I think is just as, I think that's okay. I think this is just as important.
Well, on stage or in an entertainment type scenario, isn't that the point? I mean, that's what I would
Absolutely.
do.
Well, when we're looking at, yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, talk about the wrestler, talk about the comedian, talk about the performer. No matter what, if you're putting on a costume, you're not yourself, but you are putting out an authentic message or you're getting to an authentic truth somewhere. So even in these like really harsh jokes that make people go like, ah, and I don't mean that in like the racist way. What I mean is like the ones that make you look at yourself and all of a sudden, like Louis C.K. used to do this where it never went where you expected, and that's why it was funny. But it would basically look at your own self and be like, "Oh, that is why I'm sad," and you'd kind of laughed at the discomfort. But it's like, is it so? Just putting on a character and doing that and showing a mirror to that feeling is the authenticity.
So I'm gonna imagine this as an ode to Hulk Hogan. I'm gonna channel my inner Hulk. Maybe now that he's moved on, I'll make an attempt to access his spirit and see if he wants to come in, and I'll channel him through him on stage, and maybe something will come through. All right. So punching up versus punching down. Where do comics versus comedians stand on this? So let me put it in some historical context. Did a jealous medieval
Beady, beady,
prince
beady,
become the
beady.
first comedian by killing the court jester?
Probably. I mean, I would say, yeah. I mean, punching down is the sign of, I think, in my personal opinion, punching down is just the easy way out. And it really just shows a lack of creativity in every single way. And George Carlin said it best too. It's like, I mean, it's not really funny because it's not going after the hard truth. And so it's punching up. I mean, punching down is basically saying, like, I'm insecure about my own creativity and my own capability. So I'm going to go after the easy laugh or the easy door as opposed to having to create something that actually is hard. Just to your
So
example.
no, 100%. So I'm thinking of Dave Chappelle in particular. He's obviously doing his center, focusing on punching down as his narrative. So is there? Would you agree that that's what he's doing?
I mean, I agree that he is punching down. I agree.
Right,
I will,
intentionally.
but I
Like
want
that's
to
part
hear
of his.
I want to hear what you have to say first before I give any response. But just as his narrative, I was laughing. Like punching down as his narrative was like, oh.
Is it, I mean, would you agree that that's what he's doing?
I agree that he's punching down. I think that Dave Chappelle comes from a particular place in terms of where he started as a comedian, and this is partially the issue with success, is then all of a sudden you get to a point where how much is punching up versus punching down, where anytime you make fun of someone else,
Hmm.
it's going to be punching down now that you're at a successful point.
Hmm.
So I'm not saying no, this is gonna like I'm getting tongue-tied because it sounds like I'm trying to put value and equitability on people's pain and people's particular issues, which I'm
Hmm.
not. But like Ellen DeGeneres is a great idea of a comic who never really punches up or down because she's never committed to making fun of a person. She's making fun of a thing or an action.
Hmm.
And but Dave Chappelle's never been one to do that. He's always been pointing at something, someone, an action that someone might do, and that's what creates the comedy. I mean, when you watched his show, his sketch comedy show, it was hilarious, but it was breaking ground in certain ways, in the ways that it was attacking people and doing these things.
Exactly.
And he just carried that, but now he's so successful that it can't do that. It doesn't have the same impact.
That's pretty much the answer that would make sense. In the question that I was going to ask is like,
Yeah.
what happened? Like, it is, did he change, or is it just that he kind of got so popular that now his same methodology isn't appropriate anymore?
Yeah, I mean that's really it. Like let's look at the blind black racist, right? There the which was one of those sketches that kept people spitting milk out of their noses at the time when it came out because it was for those who haven't seen it, it was a blind black guy who didn't know he was black and then therefore was racist against black people and was like the head of his KKK chapter in the South. Like it's hysterical. Then you're looking at the context of US comedy now and is like, would it work in today? Possibly, but in a different way. But the world grew up differently from that. And now you can't really have a similar context. And context matters, whether in comedy or elsewhere. In the story, context matters.
So I'm definitely going to go with that. So, um, let's go with cultural translation of comedy. So, how do jokes that work in one country bomb in another?
Man, I actually heard Kevin Feige talk about this recently. The director of the female-led Ghostbusters movie and what was it, Bridesmaids. I mean, he's directed so many comedy movies and he was a comedian for a while. But he goes by the Dusseldorf test, which there was some director in history that was like, oh, if it's funny in Dusseldorf, then I know it's funny here, right? So it's just that's what makes comedy international, or if you can take it, if you know they laugh over the lines. But a lot of it is back to context where it's like the US or North American market or English speaking market is different than Italy or Thailand because we have different sensibilities of comedy. It's kind of like reading. There's a weird, really weird tangent, but I swear it makes sense. One of the things that we do, like if you watch a horror movie in the US and North America or English speaking countries, they always run from left to right because that's how we read. We
Mhm.
read from left to right, and it becomes really, really disorienting when you watch a Japanese horror movie and they're running like the way that they run is from up to down because that's how they read. And so it's for them it's not disorienting, but for us it makes it feel twisted and surreal. And that's the same as context. When you take it out of a context that you know, a cultural context, it's hard to understand, but there are certain things that people generally find funny across borders, which are like poop jokes, falling down or getting hit with something, and then, well, I don't know, like relationship issues. Like those three things tend to transcend boundaries. I'm sure there's more
I,
than that. Those are just off the top of my
yeah,
head.
for sure. I like the German reference. I'm thinking is there, East West Berlin, East West Germany, boundary line that you can hark to. So,
Oh, yeah, definitely worked.
all right. So, is truth the meaning of facts?
Ooh, I think this comes back down to that like honesty versus authenticity question, like truth versus facts. Well, the emotional truth is not always equatable to the facts. And we see this, I mean, this is played out daily, right? Like the things that people believe because it's emotionally true to them are not always relatable to what the facts tell you, but they're not changing their mind.
So, when you say, so would you say that relatability and meaning are synonymous?
Relatability in me. I'm not sure I understand the
This is a very
the
deep
connection there.
question. It's a
Yeah.
very actual, it is. So, but because the reason why I'm asking is because everybody, first time they hear it, skips one of the three elements. The three elements, which are all individual and independent, is the idea of truth, the idea of meaning, and the idea of facts. And the fact that
No.
they're all in one sentence means they have to have three different values.
No,
So this is
yeah.
a very hard question to answer if you've never thought about it before. So,
Yeah. Well, I think people are 100% willing to overlook the facts if it gives them meaning and if it leads to their emotional truth. And so, and I think that's what it comes down to is like, it doesn't have to be factual if it gets to the truth. And that's what storytelling is. That's what comedy is generally. That's what a novel is. That's what a movie is, right? It doesn't have to be true, or excuse me, it doesn't have to be factual to feel true.
mhm. To feel, yeah, exactly. So again, there's not going to be an answer to this question. This is the one philosophers have gone around with for centuries with. So
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 we're gonna solve this one here in like 15
right.
minutes on Zoom. Yeah.
So are comics more universal while comedians are more culturally specific?
No, I think they are both. I mean, while some may branch out and find transcendence beyond borders or cultural connection, I do feel they're both kind of harbingers of their same limitations. To your point,
Okay.
like I think the culture that they are raised in does impact the jokes and the stories they tell, no matter what category they fall in.
All right. So you ready for the hardest question?
Wow, I'm really excited for the hardest question because we've gone deep on some of these already.
That was simple but deep. So this is just going to be hard and
Okay.
complicated. So it's a crowd work versus crafted work. If
Ooh.
comics riff like influencers in the comments section and comedians perform like in reaction videos, where is the sweet spot?
A comic median, would that be the sweet
Ah,
spot?
nice. Comic medium. Median, but it could be a medium.
But
It's
it
a
could be
play
a
on
medium.
words.
Yeah,
All
exactly.
right.
That's
All
exactly it.
right.
That is my cop out answer.
No, that's actually the. I think that I gave you a heads up that this is you're gonna have to use some brain power on this when you came up with something really good. So
Yeah, there you
I
go. Because
like
it's
it.
the median who's able to stand in the middle and
Ah,
transcend the boundaries of space and time to connect them.
it's not bad. I think you came
Yeah,
up with some little nugget of gold right there. So
right?
pretty good.
There still is a Ouija board involved.
There would have to be to, for this one for sure.
Yeah.
So what happens when a comic leans too much into crowd work or when a comedian gets heckled?
I mean, really, they both, I think, result in the same thing, which is panic. But some
Okay.
are a little more well versed in that than others. Like, what was it? I mean, you see it where the people who are not practiced in this, especially in heckling, I mean, or let's go to the comment section on social media. Like people who are not well versed in reacting these things and are easily taken out of context, then all of a sudden get themselves in a lot of hot water real quick because they're going to go for an unrehearsed, unplanned, unanticipated joke that can fall flat, especially if they don't know their audience well enough. Like Michael Richards did that with that terrible response. What was this? 10 years ago now, maybe 8 years ago now, where he tried to ad lib after being heckled and it just fell. I mean, ruined his career, even though he already had Seinfeld way in the bag by that point. But still, and so it's just over and over again. If you don't know how to respond in a kind of laughable way and how to make it part of the joke instead of trying to like push back on them because you think that it's an attack on you,
Hmm.
then you're just going to fall flat. That's where you're going to fall flat on your face. It's not going to work out well for anybody.
I'll go with that.
I don't
So
know. Should I have done
very.
like actionable assets there? Like, all right, actionable steps, what you should do in each state. Because I wouldn't know.
Oh, okay. There might be. Yeah, we have to
Yeah, I
follow up
have
on that
none.
one. Ah, all
No,
right.
yeah.
Well,
You follow up. If somebody says something mean to you in the comment section of your social media, ignore it. Or just maybe put a David Rose GIF underneath it. That's probably
hmm,
your best way out.
nice. I like it. All right.
Yeah.
Very important question here. Advertising and self promotion. Who
Ooh.
advertises themselves more? The comic, the comedian, or the magician? You know that place where you're not conscious and you're not sleeping either? That's your power bill to the electric company. Right here. I want us to be here with free energy, where the Wardenclyffe Tower meets the Eiffel Tower. But that's not where we are. We are here, where you've got the utility and you've got residential solar. Between these two, we know which one saves you money. This is where we can go in the meantime. But this is where I want us to be now, and this can be done now. So let me deputize you to represent DOSE, Department of Solar Efficiency, and let's get on the podcast to get the message out today. See you soon.
No, the magician just makes himself disappear, so probably not them. But I would think the comic advertises themselves more. And part of it is And I hope I'm remembering the distinction that you provided at the beginning, but I feel like the comic, who tells the jokes, right? Comedian tells the stories, comic tells the joke, or was
Both
it
are
reversed?
funny. No, no, the comic, yeah, I mean they're both. So I would argue the comic is telling any kind of joke, right? It's
Right.
not a personalized joke.
Yes. Okay. So it's really more like, because I'm thinking comic one-liner, comedian story, like overall narrative teller. And so in that way, it's easier for a comic to market themselves with, like, especially in today's day and age, really quick 30-second, 1 minute joke posted on social media, goes viral because it's hysterical and it's quick, and that's all people have attention for. Like, watch this. Oh my goodness, this was amazing. Go, go, go. And then they can just keep doing that over and over again. How many jokes do they have for a 5 minute set over and over again? That's like a month's worth of social media campaigning, and then go out, talk to people, make them laugh, clip it again, more campaigning. So I think the comic just has an easier time marketing themselves maybe than the comedian. But a comedian gets the sitcom.
I like that answer because yeah, it's how much effort and the end result, right? You can kind of
Yep.
crank it out if you're a comic, right? It's
Yep.
pretty good. I'll go with that. So, is self-promotion seen as selling out or is it necessary for survival?
Well, it's definitely necessary for survival. Now, if this was the 90s and we were still in like our Nirvana era, 100% it's selling out. But this day and age, like, you
Yeah.
can't get ahead if you're not willing to sell out by self-promoting.
No, yeah, it's based that's I would agree exactly. The 90s is the epitome. That's when you and Nirvana is the reference of all references for not selling out, right?
Yeah, 100%. Like, where would you rather go? Would you rather go the Kurt Cobain route, or would you rather go the Dave Grohl route?
Hmm. Well, I mean, you want to be successful, but you want to be remembered and you want to have, you want it to be effective. So
Yeah.
you
And
can
you also
dabble.
want to be alive.
You do,
Too-
but you know you're going to die
So
eventually.
I was about to be like, too soon, is it? I mean, it's been like 35 years, maybe 30
Yeah,
years.
yeah. So, censorship and offense. Does a comic avoid offense while a comedian courts it to prove a point, like a magician?
Ooh, I honestly feel like they both court it, but for different reasons. I mean,
Okay.
everybody's reason is their own, but I feel like a comedian makes it as part of a larger narrative where if they're trying to court the offense, they're trying to, again, hold a mirror up for whatever reason, where a comic doesn't necessarily have that. Because if it's like the joke, the quick joke, followed by another joke, it doesn't necessarily have as much of an impact because you have to, again, back to context. It means you have like five jokes that are making the same kind of referential ecosystem that you have to harken back to. And if someone's only showing one joke and it's the worst of the jokes, then all of a sudden, boom, you're not courting controversy. You just are the controversy versus the longer story arc that a comedian can tell, where it's like you can't just have that last 5 seconds of whatever punchline because there's no real punchline. The whole story is the punchline. Does this make sense? I feel like,
100%.
yeah, I think I
No,
was getting at
no.
something, but I just didn't know if it was articulated well.
No, no, yeah, it definitely made sense. So who survives better in the cancel culture environment? The comic, the comedian, the magician, or the mudslinger?
Ooh, well, the mudslinger clearly survives, whether it's in the way they want. But I mean, they definitely survive because they're just the one, like, their whole existence is controversy. Their whole existence and purpose is being the first one to say it. And I mean, what we all know it, when you court controversy, you get promoted on social media with the algorithms, the more people, because it doesn't matter why people are saying it. If you say something hateful and everybody responds, even with like, you're stupid, I can't believe you said that, you're still getting promoted by the algorithm. So you're getting
Mhm.
exactly what you want because people can't leave it alone. Like, they gotta fight you, and therefore you're just reaching more people. So
All
mudslinger.
right.
Become a
It's the
mudslinger. If
mudslinger.
you're looking for ways to get out there in the world and you don't care how, become a mudslinger.
That's the right. That's that. I agree. That's why I asked. So, timing and delivery, science or art? So, do comics rely more on structure and comedians more on rhythm and emotion?
Yes.
It's an easy one. All right. All right. So laughter versus applause. So are comics chasing laughs and comedians chasing applause breaks that validate the message?
I feel like, well, I mean, with because of the way you put it, I feel like yes. But I still think comedians want the laugh, but if you're doing that longer story, the laugh is going to take longer. Therefore, you are looking for those applause breaks to make sure that people are dialed in and actually paying attention. So then
Hmm.
you know when you do reach that end, that punchline is going to hit. But I feel like, I don't know, there's that show Hacks, pretty hilarious. Can't remember what platforms it's on, but it's about kind of a washed up old school comedian and then her assistant who's like a new age comedian and then the assistant who's I don't know 20, 21. She's like, "Oh, yeah, jokes in themselves are just so male, like they're because they're just so masculine because it's just like set up and climax so quick." I was like, oh, that is funny.
That is true. I mean, yeah, I'll go with that.
Yeah.
You gotta have that's a comic joke, right? There could be a
Oh,
narrative to it, but it's pretty much,
100%. It was 100%. It was a comic joke about why comic jokes are bad. So it worked
okay.
out really well
All
inside a
right.
sitcom. Yeah.
Yeah. It was just boom, drop it in there. All right.
Yeah.
So comedy as commentary. When does a comedian cross into being a philosopher or a preacher?
I think they're the same thing. I mean, a
Okay.
lot of people will try to differentiate it, but when you look at what a preacher is, or I'm Jewish, what a rabbi does, or
Mhm.
what does an imam do, it's all generally the same thing. It's not just about regurgitating text, it's about trying to negotiate with, question, philosophize, analyze the text. So, and that's exactly what comedians and comics are doing. Well, hopefully with the work, like they're trying to hold a mirror up to society and question it in a way that is both funny, but also in a way that makes us kind of circling back to that idea, makes us question our existence in a way, depending on what that existence is. Because I always laugh at a poop joke doesn't mean that I'm going to question my existence, but sometimes it does.
So is it good or does it dilute the humor?
Which, the poop joke or the philosophy and
The
preaching?
philosophy, but the
Oh,
poop
okay.
joke too could be diluted as well. I could say
Yeah.
over time at least.
Well, let's hope that my poop is just diluted. But other than that, yeah, I think that I think when you try to insert a message, that's when it gets diluted. But when it's subtext, it's a completely different thing. It's like watching a movie where, one movie you're watching where they're just forcing the message down your throat the entire time, and you're like, God, I've had enough of this, versus the one where, like The Matrix, right? Oh, it's actually about this thing, but we're just watching them do kung fu and get and run away from robots. So so the message is not shoved down your throat the entire time and you're just completely engaged.
All right, I'll go with that. Now, are you ready to enter the matrix into the multiverse right now?
I I was born for this.
All right, then we're about to find out. So, board game Zoomcast, play versus performance. If comedy were a board game Zoomcast, are you competing as the colorist, adding tone, mood, and shading, or the Foley artist, building punchlines with soundscapes and timing?
I would probably be a Foley artist because I think I'm colorblind.
Okay. But you don't know because that's what being colorblind is, right?
Yeah, well, I constantly call things green that my wife swears are yellow, and maybe she's the one that's colorblind, but yeah, it's put enough of the earwig into my brain to make me think maybe I am colorblind.
So, do you remember in 2012 when we had the gold dress, blue dress
Yeah,
thing?
yeah.
Okay. So that whole point was that it's so relative in color. Like if you're like a night owl, it was one you see it this way, and if you're a day person, you would see it this way. But it's objectively the same color.
So when you put it that way, I'd still probably be the Foley artist. But now I
Okay.
just feel better about how I see color.
Oh yeah. I mean that was the moment of in science it proved it. Like it's totally subjective. Like that was it. It was
The,
game over.
the internet did do some good things.
Yes. So that's right. It was, I believe it was generated that way, right? So,
Yeah.
so does comedy work better when it's painted vividly like a comic does, or when it's orchestrated sonically like as a comedian?
I don't think there's a better. I think it's just different strokes for different folks. And just like comedy in all aspects, timing is everything. So, if you're running late and the oven's on, you don't want a comedian because you want that joke quick. But if you're able to sit down and have a moment, that comedian's gonna take you all the way and give you that nice, cathartic, satisfactory ending.
All right, I like that. I'll go with that. Ready for the last question? Oh
Uh,
wait, two
I'm just
two more, one
because I was
more
gonna be
question. Sorry.
disappointed that it was the
You're going to
last
be
one.
disappointed. I know. Why I said that is because I was going to skip. Okay, so we have a tradition here in the Comedians and Elevators podcast where the previous guest asks a question for the next guest. And
Oh,
so the previous guest was Alex Hughes, and his question for you, Doug, is how will you change the world?
by putting my pants on one leg at a time.
I mean, that's not a bad answer because you got to start from the first step
Yeah,
before
I
the first
start.
step.
It's where I start,
Exactly.
and I don't know where I'll end, but at least that's where I'll start.
All right, that's the way to go. So now ready for the last question. So
Okay. Sorry, Alex Hughes.
legacy.
I hope I didn't disappoint you with that answer.
Not at all. Not at all. So, legacy. Who gets remembered? Will the comics' tight five survive time, or will the comedian's cultural point of view be more timeless?
Ooh, man, as much as I would hope it's the latter, I feel like it might be the former.
Hmm.
Because, I mean, when I think about it, when ground is broken, but people don't necessarily remember who broke the ground. I mean, if you're really into it, you might be like, yeah, sure, Lenny Bruce broke the kind of language barrier, and maybe some other comedians out there doing some other, or like Dave Chappelle earlier, how we were talking about he broke ground doing some certain type of humor. But once those are done, 10 years later, who remembers the first person who said the F word on stage? I say the F word because I don't know if I could curse here. But then but with the comedians, like people remember the jokes, pass down the jokes. Like I mentioned Mitch Hedberg earlier, like people are still sharing the joke. Or like Richard Pryor, people still share the joke, like some of the greatest jokes. And they're like, oh, and they even reference who the comedian was. So unfortunately, just because I say unfortunately only because I wish the message would be the thing carried through the legacy of the comedian who gave this message and broke this barrier. But then the barrier is broken. We forget who broke the barrier and we just remember the joke from the other guy.
I'll go with that. So, where can everybody find you online, Doug?
I'm really active on LinkedIn at Douglas Weissman. You can also find me at my website, douglasweissman.com. Drop me a line, engage with me. If you're interested in sad books rather than funny things, my recent book of Girl in the Ashes about a serial killer in Paris during World War II is out now. You can find it on Amazon or bookshop.org.
Nice. I like it. Very cool. There's no humor in that novel at all.
I mean, there's subtle humor in the way that bad people die and get dismembered, if that's your thing.
Well done. Well done.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for being my guest, Doug. And for everyone else, please like and subscribe, and we will see you in the next one.